case you don't recognise where we've been and what I do start on TikTok.
No, I got to enter.
Go on.
Oh my god! Oh, I didn't see you there. I bet you know who I am. I'm a star on TikTok. You can check out my videos in the link below. I started like this.
Oh my god.
Is there a 6 wild dance? Welcome to the vlog. Tink.
Right, we are on day 6 of Thrillerathon, so I'm coming back now quite late to introduce the next part of my vlog. On Tuesday I was in work marking some more mocks for my students, and when I got home I just kind of lazed about on a Switch game, so I didn't really do any reading. I have finished another audiobook, which was the Polar Bear Explorers Club by Alex Bell. So that is a children's book, like middle grade, and it's about this girl who is a snow orphan. She is taken in by Felix Pearl when she is discovered on one of his expeditions, and he brings her up, and she's having bad memories which potentially relate to some kind of tragic past, but it's a dream of hers to become an explorer. And so in this book she ends up going on an expedition unexpectedly, and it's all about her adventure during that time. So I listened to it as an audiobook on script, and it was enjoyable. It was nice to have in the background. I'm quite enjoying some children's adventure at the moment, but for me it was a touch simplistic and maybe a little bit too young for me. If I compare it to like Frost Heart by Jamie Littler, that feels a little bit older, which with like a touch more peril and world building to it, but it was fun. It was definitely a good read, just one I don't think I'm going to rush out and go and physically buy now that I've listened to the audiobook. So I gave that one 3 stars, and I finished that on Tuesday while I was playing on my Switch. Then yesterday we ended up playing games all day because I was going out with to a friend's house to have a games night with some of my friends from work, and that was really fun. We played quite a mixture of games, but Wayne and I warmed up by playing Unstable Unicorns in the daytime, which was really enjoyable. So the next one I'm going to be reading is The Other People by C.J. Tudor. I've read 2 C.J. Tudor books before, so they are mystery thrillers, which she tends to have some kind of like supernatural-ish twist in there. They're usually quite dark and atmospheric, and C.J. Tudor really likes Stephen King, James Herbert and things like that, so you get like a horror vibe from them, which I really enjoy. This one is about a girl who is potentially taken, and her dad drives up and down the motorway trying to find the people who have taken her, and then a parent and child duo who are running away and spend all their time on the motorway. So I'm imagining lots of cars, gridlock, dark nights, more of a travel-esque narrative to this. So we'll see. I really enjoyed C.J. Tudor before. I've really enjoyed both The Chalkman and The Taking of Annie Fawn. The Chalkman I think was fantastic, and I really loved the ending, and The Taking of Annie Fawn had so much atmosphere to it that it was really enjoyable. So I'm hopeful for this. It's not very long. It just looks bigger because it's a hardback, because it's only just come out, but it's less than 400 pages. So thrillers are usually quite fast to read, so I reckon I can read that today, because the whole plan is just to read it, to chill, or maybe dye my hair potentially, and just relax a little bit. So I will check in later and have an update on what is actually going on in the book. Hi, it's much later now, and I just thought I'd give a little bit of an update. I stopped reading to cook some dinner because I'm falling asleep. I think I've ended up having about a 20-minute nap or something like that, and need to wake myself up and clearly get some dinner and freshen up a little bit. So I'm about 100 pages in now, and we have these three kind of loosely connected threads running between the guy who his daughter has gone missing or perhaps murdered, or we're not sure, a woman and her young daughter who are running away from everything, and the daughter seems to suffer from an illness, and it's related to some kind of spookiness and creepiness. And then a woman who works at the service station who has been, sorry, just let me turn this down, Wayne's just playing a puzzle game that I keep getting distracted because if you put a puzzle on screen, apparently I can't help but try and solve it. Yeah, and this third woman who works at a service station, and she's been seeing Gabe, the main guy who's lost his wife and daughter, come in over the last year or so as he's trying to unravel what's happened to them. But he's now found some kind of clue, and it's somehow linked and connected to her, but we don't know how yet. So at the moment there's clearly something weird going on. Most of that story centres around the woman and her daughter who are trying to run away from something. There's clearly some kind of mystery aspect there. The grief that Gabe feels is very real, and that's interesting as well. But nothing's quite tied together yet, so I'm not sure where we're going. So the plan is now I'm making some noodles and vegetables, and Wayne's having some pasta, and I'm going to have a brief interlude to kind of refuel and refresh, and then I'm going to carry on. So 100 pages in, so I'm a quarter of the way through, so I'm quite confident that I can finish the rest of that today. Right, I will update you later, hopefully with much more of a cohesive update on what is happening. Starting to wind down now. It's pretty much time for bed. Wayne is just going to play another episode, another part of Blair Witch for his trophies, and I have managed to make it so I'm 345 pages through. So I've got about 50 pages left to the end, and it's just got really spooky, and lots of the threads have been pulled together. Oh, it's starting to really tie it all together now in a really interesting way, and Tudor usually has some kind of supernatural spooky twist towards the end of it, which is what I'm getting to now, so I'm really enjoying it. So although my eyes are tired, although it's now really late, almost 12 o'clock, and we are getting ready to go to bed, I'm going to try and finish the last page just before I actually fall asleep. And yeah, Wayne's just settling to play his game. Okay. So I will tell you what I thought of it in the morning. Good night. Dyed my hair again, so there should be like a pink tone to it. I don't know if it's picking up on camera or not. Like it's lightened the roots a little bit, and then there's supposed to be this pinky element, this pinky tone, but we'll see. I'm gonna give it a couple of days and see what I think. Sometimes, because my hair's so dark and I have to bleach it and lighten it, sometimes it takes, sometimes it just doesn't. So, well, you know. Right, so I have just got done writing my blog post, which is a review of The Other People by CJ Tudor, which I did finish last night. And I thought I'd come upstairs and just share some of my thoughts and feelings on that. I gave it 4 stars. Now, throughout it, I was really intrigued by the characters, and I think the underlying idea of it, the underlying theme, is really well done. It's something that I think is quite believable, and I could see, as much as I wouldn't want to, I could see how something like that could happen, or something like that could work. You have 3 disparate stories in there, and they eventually tie together. And in essence, it's a novel where you know there's going to be connections between all the characters, and you're kind of thinking, how is that going to happen? How is it going to make logical sense and not be convoluted? Luckily, CJ Tudor does manage to make it make actual sense in a way that you could see happening in the real world, rather than it just being something that's clearly contrived for the novel. The supernatural element in this I enjoyed as I was reading it, but as I got to the end, it's kind of like a blink and you can miss it ending, and that was really disappointing for me, and that's why this novel's not a 5-star. Although I was interested in the characters and everything that was going on, I just felt that the ending was way too quick. The resolution just felt a little bit like there wasn't enough time spent on that aspect of it, and ultimately you could have done without there being any supernatural elements in this and it still would have worked just as well. However, it is an atmospheric book. It is very good. The setting being on the motorway, I feel adds a stillness and stagnancy to it. So I've been on the motorway driving home at 3 AM and going into those motorway service stations. No, not me driving, I mean like my parents. But going into those motorway service stations and them being so bright and otherworldly, but also so empty and stark. There's a description at one point in it about the guy that seems to eternally be there on the fruit machines, and I see that, I recognise that, and I thought that was really good. So it really does add to this sense of realness as it creates these spaces that are kind of like in between places. They're not real world setups, they're not real world locations, they are places that are meant to be for weary people, that are meant to be for people as they travel from one place to another destination. So you kind of get this idea that those who are continually on the road, who are continually there, are stagnant in their life. They are always going somewhere but never arriving. and I liked that. I think that added a really good element to it. My favourite character was definitely the Samaritan. I hope everyone else likes him too. And I did like the characters in this. I did think it worked well. This, out of all the C.J. Tudor novels I've read, so I've now read C.J. Tudor's 3 books, which were The Chalkman, The Taking of Annie Fawn, and now The Other People. I think this one's my least favourite, but that doesn't mean that it's not good. It's my least favourite purely because I really enjoyed elements of The Chalkman. I really enjoyed the ending and the twist to it. It just really excited me. And I think The Taking of Annie Fawn succeeds in its supernatural elements much better than this does. But it's by no means a bad book to add to her body of works, and I will definitely be picking up the 4th book that C.J. Tudor writes when that comes out next year. As for the rest of my reading plans for the rest of the day, I'm now going to go just shower and get ready. It is a little bit later in the day, I think it's around 11 o'clock. We did wake up early enough, but we've just been doing stuff this morning. Like, I've been updating my blog, and Wayne's been replaying a couple of games just for trophy stuff. So now I'm going to go freshen up, get ready properly for the rest of the day, and then find my next book. I'm torn at the moment between reading The Silent Patient, which is another book again that I think I can finish in one day, or Popkin and Stubbs, The Haunting of Pelican City, which is the 2nd book in the Popkin and Stubbs series. Yeah, and again, that's something I think I can finish in one day. We officially have one day left of our holiday, which is today, and then it's the weekend, and then we're back in work. And I don't feel rushed or anything, but I do want to finish at least one more book fully and start another one before I do feel like I have to do things and get back in work. Yeah. So that's where I'm going to leave this blog update here, and I will update you later when I have actually picked a book and I'm a good way into it. Hi, it's Sunday now, so it is the last day of Thrillerathon and I haven't checked in since Friday, so I'm just going to check in now to end my Thrillerathon week and let you know what I read. So to start off with, I'll just quickly recap. This week I have read Soulbinder by Sebastien de Castell, which I gave I think 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. It's the 4th in the series, and so I'm enjoying just following that along. Then I started my reading for Thrillerathon and I read Come Back For Me by Heidi. Kind of a domestic thriller about these people with loads of secrets on the island, and in my last vlog you can see more an in-depth review of that, and I gave that one, I think it was 4 stars. Then I moved on and I read, now I'm trying to remember, The Other People by C.J. Tudor, which I enjoyed. C.J. Tudor is an author that I've liked pretty much every one of her books. This one for me was my least favourite of them, but still quite enjoyable, quite fun to read, and a very interesting concept, so I gave that 4 stars as well. There is a more in-depth review of The Other People on my blog, which is linked below, so if you're interested in seeing like really in-depth thoughts of that, and I go through the CAWPILE system which G from Book Roast created, so I use that to structure the reviews, so if you're interested in that in more detail, that is linked below. And then I was reading The Silent Patient by Michaelides. Now, The Silent Patient I finished yesterday. It was the shortest book on my TBR, so I thought I'd be able to read it in one day, but actually The Other People is the one that I could read in one day, and this one took me a little bit more time. It's a psychological thriller, but the emphasis is on the psychological. The Silent Patient is about a woman who murders her husband, and then from the day that she murders him, she refuses to speak, to say anything at all. She paints one picture, and that is the last known communication from her, and done. 6 years later, a psychologist gets a job working at the psychiatric unit that she has been put in, and he is determined to be the one who saves her. and makes her speak again. It wasn't quite what I was expecting. I was really expecting to have more of an emphasis on her story, her thoughts, and what she was going through, but because it's narrated really from the psychologist's point of view, there's a lot more psychobabble and psychotheory in it than I necessarily like. It was also a very weird act of narration. So he's essentially almost a detective through the novel, trying to figure out what has gone on and what made her kill her husband. And at the same time, you get some flashbacks to her diary entries leading up to the time of the event, and start to see what her psychology was like at the time. That is pretty much all I can say about that. If I say anything more, I'm fairly certain I will accidentally reveal it. Now, The Silent Patient has people who absolutely adore it. In a book group that I speak in, I asked and ended up with something like 50 comments back, and only 2 of them have someone who disliked it in any way. All the rest of the people loved it and really enjoyed it, and I'm kind of in the middle. I think it's a really good concept. I like the idea. I do think it's quite original in what it's done and how it's written, and I didn't see the twisted idea coming, so it's surprising and it's quite readable. On the other hand, I'm not massively fond of the psychobabble stuff and all the psychotherapy things, and so I just found that particularly difficult for me personally, and so it didn't lead to the most amount of enjoyment for me, and so I ended up giving that 3 stars. But I can easily see how someone who is a lot more interested in the idea of the psychology would really love it, and someone who's looking for a thriller that's a little bit different, this is definitely one that would appeal, and it's well worth picking up to see where you sit with that. And then I was going to end it, I was going to not read anything else. I've also listened to 2 audiobooks this week, so I've listened to Come Tumbling Down by Seanan Maguire, which features some of my favourite characters from the Wayward Children series, and so I gave that 4 stars, and I'd read Explorers, or the Polar Bear Explorers Club by Alex Bell as well, which is just a fun children's adventure, and so I gave that 3 stars as like a nice background read. So I was like, well, I've read a lot, I've listened a lot, I felt kind of done with thrillers, but we're going through a book event on Wednesday with Heidi Perks and also with Lucy Foley. And Lucy Foley wrote The Hunting Party, and I haven't yet read this, and it looks chunky, but it's not. It's only around 360 pages or something. Again, it's another one I've heard some really good things about, and since I'm going on Wednesday, I decided yesterday I would at least start to make my way through this, even if I end up picking something up, and I haven't really put it down. I'm now 42% through because I'm reading on my Kindle as well, so 162 pages into it. So yeah, this is about a group of friends who've been friends since university or longer, who all met together at Oxford. They're very rich, they're very privileged, but they're much older now and they're all living kind of disparate lives if they've grown up and grown into doing different things. And they get together every New Year's Eve to celebrate and kind of reminisce and come back together as a group to remember their days at university. So this particular New Year's Eve, they all end up together at a remote hunting lodge in the Scottish Highlands, and it is completely isolated, completely cut off. There are those 9 people, 2 guests from Iceland and 2 workers who live there, and in the very first bit you discover that one of the guests has gone missing and the gamekeeper has managed to find them, but what he has found is a dead body. There is no one else who could possibly be there, there's no way to get to them. The storm has meant that no police can get in and they're completely trapped there, and so basically they are trapped there with at least 1 killer, if not potentially more, and even this far in, I do not know who the body is. So it's flicking between the timelines of 2 days before New Year's Eve, when they all arrive and the parties they're having and leading up to the events, and then the day after New Year's Day when the body has been discovered. So we know there's a body been discovered, we know that things are happening and that it's becoming much darker, but you don't yet know who or why as you see the dynamics between their friends. It's multi-perspective. I think so far there's been something like 4 or 5, I think, perspectives. So as long as you can keep your head around that, it's quite good. Makes it very difficult to read if it's really, really late at night. But, you know, it's quite an interesting and compelling read. So, yeah, I will definitely have this finished for Wednesday, but I don't think I'm going to get it finished today. So I figured I'd pretty much end my Thrillerathon vlog there. Wayne and I have had a really fun week off, but now we're back to work. So there's other stuff I got to do today, and I head out to my mum's and sister's tonight, so I'm not going to continue vlogging, but I have managed to read 3.5 books specifically for Thrillerathon, and managed to read 6 books this week while I was off. So all in all, a very successful reading week. I hope your reading week has gone just as well, especially half term. If you're interested in talking to me about any of the books that I've mentioned, please chat in the comments, or otherwise like and subscribe if you want to see more. Bye.
Make sure you like, comment, nice things only, and subscribe. Also, to you like morning and toys and sweeties. Tell Santa.